Hi, I'm Ranger Russ from the Battle of Rivers Bridge State Historic Site. Just to give you a quick overview of the battle here and why it was important. This was the very end of the Civil War. General Sherman had already done his famous march to the sea through Georgia, where he found himself in Savannah at the coast. From there, he decided to do the same thing to South Carolina, cut up north through the state, destroying war production, demoralizing the population, trying to bring the war to a faster close. To keep him out, the Confederates built a defensive line along the Salkehatchie River, right about here. They didn't have enough men left to line the banks of this thing, so what they did was they fortified all the crossings, all the bridges, anywhere you could get men, horses, wagons, artillery across. Rivers Bridge was one of those crossings, and this was the only major opposition Sherman ran into as far as being stopped cold. Once he broke this defensive line right here, right at Rivers Bridge, he ran clean through the state, and he was never stopped again while in South Carolina.
After a brief history lesson from the ranger, we went inside and got our Ultimate Outsiders book stamped and headed over to the battlefield.
And when you arrive at the battlefield, you are invited to take one of these cards where you randomly choose a soldier and you get to know part about his story, and we'll talk more about that later.
Here on February 2nd and 3rd, 1865, part of Sherman's army clashed with Confederate troops along the Salkehatchie River. In the two-day Battle of Rivers Bridge, Confederates made the most determined resistance to Sherman's march through South Carolina. Sherman's army moved in two wings to confuse the Confederates and prevent them from concentrating their forces. His troops marched inland to cross the state's rivers, where they narrowed instead of along the coast, where they ran through wide marshes.
After we finished our tour of the battlefield, we headed over to the cemetery and relic room to find out more about our soldiers.
With a short drive across the park, we came to the cemetery and to the relic room, where we found soldiers from World War II and Civil War. We moved into the relic room. We were both pleasantly surprised at the documentation and the stories that we were able to read. We were also there to find out what happened to our soldiers.
So my soldier was Dr. Needham F. Kirkland, Surgeon 3rd, South Carolina Cavalry. Let's find out what happened to him. Dr. Needham Kirkland died in 1920, so he survived this particular battle. He is buried at Mount Pisgah Church, about 6 miles from Rivers Bridge.
I had Dr. Arthur B. Monahan, Surgeon 63rd Ohio Infantry.
Monahan survived the war and returned to his native Ohio. He served in the state legislature there and died in 1878 at age 50. As we were heading back to the campground, we happened to look over and see the church where Todd's soldier was buried. Mizpah Methodist Church is a historic Methodist church located in Olar, South Carolina. Built in 1856, its frame is of Greek Revival and Gothic Revival architectural elements. We were unfamiliar with the word Mizpah, so we did a little research and found out that it's Hebrew for the word watchtower. As mentioned in the biblical story of Jacob and Laban, making a pile of stones marked an agreement between two people with God as their watching witness.
So after only a few minutes of looking around, we finally found the final resting place of Dr. Kirkland, my soldier, from the battlefield. It was really neat to tie all this together and see where he was actually buried at.
So at every cemetery we try to find one headstone that kind of gets our attention. Today it's this one. We noticed the broken chain on the top. It says, "Our darling Bessie, daughter of J. Fletcher and Julia A. Branham,
died July 14th, 1884, aged 16 years. Fold her, O Father, on the
In thine arms.
and let her henceforth be a messenger of love between our human hearts and thee.
Leave us a comment if you've visited Rivers Bridge before, hit the subscribe button to join us on our next adventure, and a thumbs up on this video. We will see you next time.